Hmm. Seems like a pretty big surprise, this legendary we got right now. I wonder if there was a prediction earlier in the month. Oh. Oh. Okay. Yeah, Legendary Micaiah. Whoa, act surprise, everyone.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up, guys? Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about, well, impressions, reaction to Legendary Micaiah, which is not a surprise for many reasons. This one's like literally long overdue as a legendary. We had like a data mine on her tome, I think, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, just this wasn't really a surprise, but I'm glad it's here. So Legendary Micaiah, we're gonna go through this video, and I'm just gonna give my impressions on the legendary, her skill set, preference, what it means probably to the win season, because she's a win legendary. And later today, or tomorrow, depending on your time zone, I'm going to also be doing a more thorough analysis, stat prediction on Micaiah. So this is just the reaction impressions video. Later today we'll go through more detail, plus I'll re-look at the win legendaries if that meta is truly affected. And finally, I'll go through should you poll or community poll thoughts on that. So if you aren't familiar with that, I do post up a poll right away as soon as this banner comes out, before this video is even out, on my community and what their impressions or thoughts are on the legendary banner and whether they're willing to commit to it. So you can see right there, that was the previous one on should you pull. So should you pull, or are you going to pull for CYL5? So on this banner, I'm collecting the data right now, and if you want to participate in that, that is on my Patreon. You don't have to be subbed on there or anything to vote. So if you feel like adding your thoughts to it, feel free to do so by voting on there. That'd be awesome. That data is really useful for like looking back and doing reflective analysis. So yeah, all right, anyways, before we begin, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. Thank you guys, love you all. Let's do it. So, Legendary Micaiah. Considering Legendary started back in 2017, I actually am kind of shocked that it took like 4 years for Micaiah to even get one. Considering that she's, I feel like, fairly popular-ish, maybe.
I am descended from Leron and Altina.
I like Tellius, I like Radiant Dawn, so for me this is a big win. Let's see, initial thoughts here, obviously win Legendary, colorless tome, no big surprise there. And infantry though, so she's not a flyer like some of her other versions, but that's okay. It shouldn't really matter. If anything, she can benefit from a lot of the really powerful infantry stuff, like times pulse and no follow-up, no see disrupt, whatever. So I'm sure she'll be fairly interesting in that regard. I'm okay with the art. I don't think we've had a Hakan art in a while, actually, so it's definitely unique from like the other versions where they look kind of samey. I feel maybe the art is the same. I'm not gonna think about it too much. Let's get into the analysis. I'm the guy that likes the Mila art. Like, I'm not that difficult to please. All right. So first thing I've noticed right away is Maiden's Solace is basically an upgraded Sacrifice. So Sacrifice didn't remove like penalties, like stuff like Grav or Flash and whatnot, like the actual penalties. I think Panic as well. That stuff wasn't removed. It kind of just reversed them. This one does. It's basically Harsh Command Plus in that aspect. So it actually removes them. It still does the healing aspect of Sacrifice. Now the real interesting thing here is that going to be like Change Fate, where Change Fate has a random SP cost increase that makes Chrom score more? So maybe she does have a preference B skill, so she could potentially be breaking the threshold of scoring for Legendary Heroes beyond even Claude. And a couple of the other ones. It's just kind of interesting to think about. For now, it's mostly speculative. Comes with Fury 4, comes with a new joint distant guard. This isn't too much of a surprise to me. Like, it feels like they were due for like joint skills anyways. Not much to say on it. It's not that amazing, but it could be very good. for certain team comps that like to stack stats as much as possible for both like units that do end up in combat and those that don't. So whatever. All right, let's talk about her preference weapon. So no surprise there. Again, double effectiveness. Literally every weapon of hers has this. Effective against armored and cav. But the additional effects here are basically if she's within 2 spaces of an ally or she initiates combat, she gets bonus attack and res, and she gets a guaranteed follow-up, basically like a bolt fighter effect or whatever. The second effect on her weapon is like a desperation effect. If a unit is under or equal to 50% HP, mind you, it's like lower HP, and she initiates combat, she gets to do a desperation effect. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess it has some synergy with Fury and her Maiden Solace, so at least that's kind of cool from a base kit perspective. But I don't know how I feel about this. It would require some sort of setup otherwise. Like you could probably do things with like Reciprocal Aid or Ardent Sacrifice, Winter Bernadetta, Duma, Duma enabling that. Something like that could definitely get that effect up and running, which is cool. It kind of hints at me that maybe we're going to start seeing more like Winter Bernadetta effects where people are taking recoil damage on your team or the units themselves or some sort of skills that do that. And that would really buff units like Brave Lysithea as well. Finally, we have her preference B skill, which is again another I get more attack and you get less attack kind of skill, which synergizes with the weapon, of course. On top of that, she gets damage reduction if she initiates or if the enemy is too ranged, so it could be used on enemy phase for that. Only the first attack though, so if she gets like braved or doubled or something like that, I guess it will have some damage reduction there, which again is actually fairly unique to ranged units in general. So having damage reduction on a ranged unit is not that common, which does make this skill fairly good. Whether it's truly like the best B slot though is something I'm gonna have to think about a little bit in today's later analysis, because you are technically giving up stuff like null follow-up and null C disrupt. So I don't know how I feel about that yet, but it's still not bad because like again, you can't really use damage reduction otherwise in the B skill, and it is a flat damage reduction, as opposed to certain brave heroes that rely on a stat comparison of defense, who will not be named. Alright, let's continue. Overall though, I think she is fairly unique. Whether she's game breaking, I don't think so. Not yet anyways. Could be cool on defense though. Not like Legendary Sigurd kind of annoying on defense, but definitely a viable option if you're not running stuff like Brammy already, so she probably wouldn't work on Dark Season as well. But on Anima, probably be some use there. Alright, so banner time. Stuff we know already, Legendaries and Mythics, Naga, Sothis, Thrasir, Edelgard, or Legendary Edelgard, Legendary Lina, Ingrid, Verena, Fallen Edelgard, Fallen Morgan, and Ashera. So it's pretty obvious where the value lies in this banner, but nonetheless, if you want to, guys, feel free to give me your thoughts in the poll on Patreon. Again, description below. Even in the comments, let me know, although I'll be using the thoughts from the Patreon from my community to get a more concrete example. Again, this banner, yeah, I mean, it stands out already to say that Colorless is likely very good because Ashera, for those who don't have Astro Mythics merged, is pretty good, if only just because of the res buff, but also I guess because of synergy with Brave Marth for you Brave Marth users. Micaiah is fairly new as a one-off. I'm sure she'll find some value somewhere, especially with her weapon potentially being even better in the future, or a nuke, whatnot, or at least anti-armor, anti-cav. Like, that's always going to be good in some form. And finally, Fallen Edelgard is here. So Fallen Edelgard is obviously merged and used by quite a few people. She scores pretty well as on top of that, so probably could be a decent place for some people to go colorless, though I wouldn't call it must pull. I don't really call anything must pull nowadays. but colorless does have some extremely good value here. Now the rest of the colors are basically like your own scenario here. So like if you're still merging Naga and you want some fodder, then you would go blue, I guess. Then you have like the Morgans and the other colors. Red is basically ruined by Sothis with Lilina, sharing with Lilina. And then green has Edelgard and Thrasir sharing for probably like the third time, I feel. So those of you that are still merging that would probably get some value there. What is interesting to me is definitely some of the reruns that will happen here, where some of these will come back in the later months. So I'm going to be watching that more intently. But yeah, that basically covers Micaiah and her banner on my initial thoughts. Again, later in today's video, I'm actually going to do a more thorough analysis on Micaiah, my stat speculation on her, and of course, what you guys think. So, thank you for watching, guys. That's it for me on this one. Love you all. Smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. If you love this content, you want to consider supporting what we do, Patreon is below. Love you all. Peace.
It's over.